Hey, today I have the pleasure to host Roz King, Chief Architect. Hi, Roz.
Hey, Yusuf, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Can you introduce yourself? Tell us more about you and the company you're working for, and then we can introduce today's subject.
Sure, can do. So my name is Roz King. I work at LakeFusion as the chief architect. I kind of hate backgrounds. It just feels like bragging when we just go and list these long strings of things we've done. I've been a data engineer for most of my career and have bounced around from enterprise to academia to nonprofit. So I've seen a little bit of everything and made every single mistake in the book. And so I'm really excited to spend my time right now working on master data management and the problems there, because it's a common problem you see across a lot of enterprises.
And I think you mentioned a very interesting keyword, master data management, aka MDM. So can you tell us more about the MDM and what's the purpose of using an MDM or a master data
Yes.
management?
So I think this is really interesting because if you ask someone what MDM is in the industry who's in the know, 10 people, you get 11 different answers. There's a lot there, and the landscape of MDM is huge. So generally, we think about what MDM or master data management is a process of mastering master data. So there's a lot to unpack there. Master data, it's useful to define that. Master data is essentially the data about your business and about your business entities that your entire business refers to and gives context to data transactions. So you can think about this as customers or suppliers, products, all of the core entities that your business runs on, and the information about them that your business needs to operate correctly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very, very clear. It's like understanding the context behind the data you do have and make sure that those users may find the data easily and understanding the context behind every single assets you have on your system.
Yeah. So that's the master data. And the thing is, with a lot of modern enterprises, we have these huge sprawling enterprises that have multiple data sources and multiple different types of data quality, multiple definitions of the same thing. And so the process of actually mastering that master data is really tricky. It involves the IT side who has to go in and process all of that data, implement business rules, but it also involves the business side that has to define those business rules, has to own those business rules to a degree on a collective definition of those rules across the entire business. When you have maybe a bunch of different use cases for those rules, you have regulatory compliance, it's a truly complex field. And so master data management is essentially the process of going from all of the raw data and turning it into master data that the business can action on and trust and rely on, actually run their business correctly without all the issues that come up when you have these scattered data sources across their entire system.
And just for the clarity of maybe people who've never heard about MDM. So when you're saying master data management, is it maybe a SaaS application that will come that you will have to connect with your I don't know, data lake or the storage where we have all your data or any system? And then is this mapping or let's say this discovery of the data done automatically, or you still need the business team to do all the work, or is it a combination between the business team and maybe the intelligence inside an MDM?
That's a good question. And I think, again, the answer to that differs depending on who you're talking to. Now, the core problem of master data management is getting the business actually into the data and working with the data. And so, for a good example, if you're running on Databricks and you have a really strong engineering team that's processing a lot of data, you still need to somehow expose that to the business so the business can interact with it, run their stewardship on that data. And, Unity Catalog as a governance tool is a really great example of how you start bringing in some of the business logic into the system. But you still have this gap as how do you actually let the engineer or the business team interact with the data itself? And that's where your statement of is this a SaaS tool or what actually is this that makes this happen? It's generally a collection of tools because there's a lot of different things that go on in the mastering data pipeline. There's a lot of different steps in master data management. But one of the core pieces of tooling that's necessary is some way of exposing that data to the business users so they can interact with it and allowing them to interact with all the processes, the data cleaning, the data profiling, the entity resolution, all of those pieces, the defining of rules that you need in order to understand how to resolve these data entities, how to apply survivorship to the entities. All of those tools need to be exposed in a way that a business user can interact with them. So in short, yes, this is a tool. This is a collection of tools. It is a bunch of processes you have to build around these tools to make sure that the business can get into the data and work with the data and see it and understand the implications of the actions that they're taking on.
Yes, literally building the entire knowledge base of the business people inside the platform to make sure that you have business continuity and you have a documentation inside the platform to make sure that if I am maybe, I don't know, new joiner, I understand how this data is being computed, what's the, I don't know, system using this, and why this, I don't know, this data is important.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And if I'm not wrong, for LakeFusion has been built on the top of Databricks. That's right?
Yes, that is right. We've been talking about MDM just in general, but LakeFusion, the company I work for, we have built an MDM, an end-to-end MDM tool that sits on Databricks. Now, this is really cool for a couple different reasons, but the main reason that it's really exciting for folks who are already on Databricks is a lot of the traditional MDM tools basically had to build their own data platform just to run MDM. Which means if you subscribe to any of the existing MDM software as a service tools, what you end up having to do is pull your data out of your current data ecosystem into theirs, run all your mastering processes there, and then push them back into your data ecosystem so then you can actually use that data. And part of that is because, prior to cloud, everything was running on-prem. You had to deploy some very specific systems. There's a lot of different ways to build these integrations. And so a lot of these entrenched players came up through the on-prem and then now trying to adapt to cloud. Now that we're, deep into not just cloud, but into the lakehouse environment, it's time to rethink actually how we architect and build our MDM systems. And so that's why at LakeFusion, we started thinking about what would a modern version of an MDM system look like. We immediately said, well, this sits right in Databricks. Your data should never leave Databricks. Data gravity, I think, is the term that we throw around a lot. Like you want to keep your data, like bring the compute to the data. And so that's what we're doing with LakeFusion. We're saying, Databricks has this incredible AI platform that exposes all the tools we need to take data from across a bunch of different sources, try to figure out how they match, how they merge, how to deduplicate them, and expose all of that to the business users. So LakeFusion builds this really nice user interface on top of Databricks that allows business users to come in and interact with the incredible power that Databricks offers.
Yeah, so to understand, you're bringing the zero copy data and you use the customer's compute.
Yes.
So behind the scene, how does it work? Is it like a deployment using, I don't know, Databricks assets bundles, it's scripts, or that you're sharing with a customer so this customer can deploy the platform on the top of Databricks? Or it's how does it work?
Good question. So the way a customer gets started is they install us from any of the large cloud marketplaces. So AWS Marketplace, Azure Marketplace. We're not on GCP right now, but we will be fairly soon. And what that does is it deploys a Kubernetes cluster into the customer's cloud environment. That Kubernetes cluster connects to the Databricks compute layer using the OAuth SDK. The user needs to be on Unity Catalog because we use all the Unity Catalog information to pull in the user's data. So that means when a user connects LakeFusion to their own Unity Catalog instance and starts browsing for the data they want to actually master, they end up just pulling up the list of all their data assets in Unity Catalog. The process of importing data into LakeFusion is actually just registering the location of that asset in Unity Catalog. All compute happens through notebooks, or it happens through the Databricks SDK, which means all the compute is happening on the existing clusters using serverless clusters. There's no additional infrastructure to spin up on top of the really lightweight user interface like Kubernetes clusters that actually run our UI.
Okay, so basically for the requirement, you just need to have, of course, a Databricks account, sign up through the marketplace, AWS Marketplace, Azure Marketplace, and coming soon the GCP Marketplace. And then it's like point click, and then you're good to go. No need, don't need to set up any permissions. Everything is done for you. Just next, and you're good to go.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Awesome. And for example, is there any trial period if someone want to try Fusion, or how does it work?
Good question. So right now we don't have a trial period. We did have a read-only interface that we can give people access to just click around to get a better understanding of what things look like. But we were finding that the time to value from using LakeFusion is shortened so significantly over a lot of the entrenched MDMs that we want to quickly get to just doing a pilot in our customers' environments. That means when we start having sales calls and talking to customers and they say, hey, yeah, I'm interested. I want to try this out. I want to see what this can do for us. We just say, great. Let's just install it in your environment. Let's get to work. Let's run a really quick 6-week to 8-week pilot on real data, deploy this data into production, and just get this going. And this is another really cool thing about LakeFusion. A lot of traditional MDMs can take 6 months, 8 months to just get to a final mastered entity. We turn this around in 6 weeks to 8 weeks. It is a wildly fast time to value. And a lot of that is because there's no data integrations that have to happen. We use a really advanced AI engine that doesn't need the user to write a bunch of match merge rules, which is another huge part of the process in building out MDM. And so we can cut down the time to value really quickly, which means we stop having conversations about, can we do a free trial, and start having conversation about how can we deploy into prod in the matter of a couple of weeks.
That's very interesting, which means you go straight to the point. You show the real value of the platform, because sometimes, like, I don't know, 14 days trial or 1 month trial cannot be enough, or maybe they need additional resources while your team is here to help them get started quickly and benefit from the platform. So if someone wanted to reach out, like, for, I don't know, to your team, is there any link or email or person to reach out to?
Yes, absolutely. So on our website, we have a contact form, LakeFusion.ai. You can come reach out to us and we'll schedule a meeting. We can do demos. We have a demo on YouTube that we can share. So anyone who wants to see kind of the look and feel of the platform can watch that demo. And it does a pretty deep dive into all of the features that LakeFusion offers.
Maybe if you show us like just the interface of the LakeFusion?
Yes. Give me a second to pull it up. So this is the general user interface for LakeFusion. I mentioned earlier that master data management is a process. It's a process that involves data profiling. It involves executing data quality operations. It involves defining your entities. It involves building match models. What you see in the LakeFusion UI here is essentially that process laid out into a section of modules. So we have the ability to import data into the LakeFusion tool. This process of importing data essentially brings up your Unity catalog, and you can browse through that Unity catalog and select data that you want to operate on. The next step in the process is data profiling. This allows you to understand the overall quality of your data, look for missing values, look for frequency distributions, etc. of your data, operate and run data quality notebooks. This can attach to existing Databricks notebooks, or we have this really nice visual programming tool that allows users to build actually no code data quality operations. What's really cool is this gets them compiled down to a Databricks notebook on the back end, which means we can now do, no code data processing at scale for business users, which ends up being a really key feature for teams that want to give their data stewards, their business users, end-to-end control over a master data management program, but still be able to use the power of Databricks behind the scenes.
Yeah, this is amazing, because since it's low code, no code, like, you don't require a technical person to use this. Like, you can just bring as you mentioned, the business folks, and they can start implementing the rules they want to have, maybe for data quality or maybe for entity resolution, and bring their intelligence inside your Fusion.
Yep, that's exactly right. I will not go deep into these other pieces just because, we'll share that YouTube link and let other people go take a look. The one thing I do want to show, which I think is really cool, is the entity search. This is the piece that I think helps people understand really what this ends up looking like. So this is a screen where a steward will go to actually try to find some potential matches. The way our AI matching works is we essentially give it 2 records and ask an AI model, hey, do you think these are the same records? And it uses the entire context of that record. We pass it, and it uses the business context of that record. And this is really cool because it means the user doesn't have to define any matching merge rules. Our AI really just looks at the full record, which means if the vendor name is different, it's able to still find that match. If the vendor region is different, it's able to still understand the match because it understands semantically what these things mean. And it allows us to find matches in data that a lot of the entrenched systems just cannot match.
Yeah, and this is very, very important, because I remember I used to work for a company and we had an entire project just to make sure that we have the right naming, because we had to do an aggregation to see how many products we bought from this specific supplier. And since they had different names, it was hard for them to do the right aggregation. So with the right naming, you will have better aggregation, which means, well, let's say, a more like a big number of these products. So we can go to this company, say, okay, I bought 1 million units from this specific product, so give us a return of 10% because of this. And without this right entity, you would end up having less units, and which means lower discounts from this specific company.
Yeah, that's a really good example. And I think this kind of showcases why kind of rethinking MDM in kind of this AI world makes a lot of sense. Like the kind of matches you're talking about, like you can get there, you can get close when using some fuzzy matching and similarity searching. But because we're using vector search and we're using LLMs to do this means we're actually looking semantic similarity rather than just like how close is the string to another string, for example. And it means that we're able to find matches that are semantically similar, and there's not really anyone doing MDM.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It seems to be a very good product. Thank you so much, Rose, and see you maybe very soon, maybe for a release of an update on LakeFusion.
Can't wait. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Yeah.